Hi everyone, I'm Zen, your astrologer, and welcome to another pick a card reading. Now, before we begin, I would like to mention that this pick a card reading is not a timeless one. It is valid for the present and, of course, the near future. And the reason why I have chosen this special subject is because we are nearing the beginning of Aries season. When the sun leaves the sign of Pisces, the past, especially the distant past, the karma, everything that we have planted in our unconscious mind, in our emotional world. Generally, a Pisces season is a period when we focus on the past and everything that is left behind from the past and needs, for example, resolution, completion, elimination, regardless if that takes a rather down to earth shape or simply an emotional or psychological expression. In different terms, basically, Pisces season is always very good to close everything that is left behind from the previous year, the previous energies, the previous karmic themes and vibes, etc. Because what happens after the sun leaves the sign of Pisces and enters the sign of Aries, it is like a beginning of a new cycle, the beginning of the new astrological year, of course in tropical Western astrology, and it even makes sense from a non-astrological perspective because it is basically the spring, the beginning of the spring. It is also the spring equinox. So it is almost like nature herself and the whole universe at work is inviting us along with animals, plants and everything alive on this earth to begin anew, to look forward to the new, to the next, whatever we have to accomplish this year, this cycle, and that basically means karma as well. Because rather than being still focused on whatever remains from the past, this is where we're kind of guided and also invited by inner and outer forces, for example, spring, animals and plants emerging from their slumber, from the hibernation period, the beginning of fertility, etc. So we kind of are invited to focus on whatever we have to accomplish in this new cycle, even karmically. For example, to make important progress and step toward our goals, our plans, our life path, whatever we feel that is more important to our soul in this period. And there is something very distinctive about this year's Aries season. Well, this is the first beginning of this new cycle, as I said earlier, following last December's great conjunction, the meeting of Saturn and Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, which from an astrological perspective was a very, very important moment because that was the birth of the new paradigm, the next 20-year karmic cycle for all of us collectively and individually alike. And also, since it took place in 0 degrees of the sign of Aquarius, this is about new, the next, the future, much more than any other great conjunction which would have taken place in any other degree of any sign. 0 degrees is always critical for the next, for the new. It is basically like the Fool in Tarot, where the 0 represents an immaculate state, perfect innocence, but one that has to set up and start out on the journey of self-discovery and achieving mastery. So that means that this particular Aries season, the very first after the Great Conjunction, is much more significant, influential, and powerful than any other. This is where the astrological energies are simply animating our wills. They're animating everything within us to do something new, to begin the next, or basically just to start living our own specific, unique and individual ways, this new paradigm, even though it is still under a shroud of mystery, even though it's still not very clear, foreseeable. This is where we cannot actually anticipate what is going to happen in these next 20 years. We cannot even tell in which way certain very important elements, things for all of us collectively are going to be evolving next. Yet still, the sky is inviting us to dive deeply into the unknown and no longer fear it, but use it to our advantage, because the unknown, the mystery, that which isn't explorable yet, also has the chance of something truly big and wonderful happening every single moment, every next second. And basically this is an opportunity that's available to each and every one of us, regardless of our past, who we are, how we set up our lives, the balances between different areas of our lives, and ultimately what karma we stepped into this life with. All of us have this chance to start anew, be reborn, psychologically of course, and just begin a new something. Or for some people, absolutely everything. And this is exactly the theme of today's Pick a Card. It tries to give you an insight, perhaps an inspiration, perhaps a confirmation through divine synchronicity regarding which new beginnings or anything new that might enter your life, or something that you want to create for yourself, how all of these things are likely to play out in the close future, because Aries season begins very, very soon, the 20th of March, which also coincides with the spring equinox, so it is knocking at our doors already. And I was thinking that maybe some help and guidance specific to this subject can help inspire, motivate those of us who feel the astrological influences very strongly, as in everything is motivating us, pushing us, guiding us to begin something or somewhere new in life. The instructions are the same as always. Just take a look at the 5 piles of cards for a couple of seconds, or as long as you need to, and then choose a pile which sparks up your intuitive senses the most, and then just jump straight to the interpretation, which can be found in the description below or the comments below. For those of you who have chosen the first pile, your cards are the Fool reversed, the Emperor, and Death. This is an extremely powerful combination of cards. Well, first of all of them are major arcana. So for you guys, whatever new beginning is about to take place in your lives, well, it is really important, really powerful, life-changing, and also the thought of it, the idea of it, is not really something brand new, because you have been trying to enable this for some time now. It is almost like whatever this is, you need it desperately, you know that you need it, and certain things do not depend on you, while other things depend exclusively on you. So it is really a complicated situation, and it is also heavily karmic. It might have been the case that you have been working for this new beginning, this breakthrough, this rebirth, but one which basically happens in each and every area of your life simultaneously. So it can very well be a brand new life, starting from scratch, starting from zero. But this trying to have this new life, this really, really powerful new beginning, it is something that you have been working for, working on, working with for the past 4 years. And this Fool reversed means that you also took a massive leap of faith, or you had a moment of maximum courage when you did a really big, especially spiritually big gesture in order for you to get on your path, in order to set things in motion, get going towards this new beginning. And this might have been approximately 4 years ago. Or perhaps that is when this dream of yours, this motivation, or this necessity, because this is also very urgent for many of you, began. Or maybe you had the guidance, you had the idea, you had this inner call to set out on this journey. So from this perspective, it is not that new. You had this desire within you for the past 4 years. So by now, I do believe that you must be totally out of patience. You must be extremely desperate to finally be able to begin in the real sense of the world. So not just psychologically, not just motivation, not just spiritually, where, it's karma, starting a new cycle, etc. This is where you want to have it, you want to live it, you want to work with it, you want to be immersed into it in all of its sides. So it's not just like you just want the good things and not so much the bad things. This is where you're fully prepared to immerse into this new state of being, this new life, along with new career, new people, new everything. So without a doubt, for you guys, those who have chosen the first pile, this Aries season might be more important than for anyone else, because even though this doesn't guarantee that absolutely everything that you need will pop up in your life by the end of Aries season, but in the next 4 months, your life is gonna look so very, very different, radically changed. So even if not everything that you desperately need in your life will pop up instantly, in the next 4 months, chances are that it is going to find completion, manifestation, call it whatever you want. So in the next 4 months, you are definitely going to be living that new chapter and that new life and that new beginning that you have worked for so very, very hard in the past 4 years. And this is where it wasn't just a lot of inner work, trying to change your ways, trying to change your way of thinking, trying to simply heal all the wounds of the distant past, childhood wounds, maybe childhood traumas, relationship with your family of origin, relationship with yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you manage your life, how you treat yourself, how you lead yourself. Also your life philosophies, something related to your spirituality, your way of thinking, how you look at the big picture, for example, the meaning of life, or what we're doing on planet Earth, etc. So all of these things have also suffered a massive change, an upgrade, so to speak, where certain misconceptions, misaligned beliefs of the past were just purged away in the most painful way possible, because everything that you thought was real or thought life follows certain patterns, well, you were confronted with them and you had to be disappointed of the old way of doing things, old way of living life, old rules, regulations, even spirituality or maybe even religion. You just had to be profoundly disappointed by the old in order for you to process rationally and logically that things no longer work that way from any perspective. This is where all of us were invited to embrace a new era, but you might not have known this the time when all of these purges, all of these fated events happened in your past, which led you to take a leap of faith. And I'm not sure what this leap of faith actually means. It can mean so very many things for different people, but what you have in common is that it was facing a massive fear of yours. For example, for some people, they left a comfortable, yet limited material situation, because they knew that they're worth much more than that, and they just left all the comfort, all the ease behind, and they had to face total abyss materially in order to rise back to the surface. For other people, it might have been a divorce, leaving a steady relationship where you might not be able to fault your partner with anything they did, but they just weren't that person for you who could feed your soul emotionally and spiritually. You were someone infinitely more elevated than them, with someone with a much higher potential. So it just had to happen. The separation just had to take place. And you might have blamed yourself, you might have felt guilty for a lot of time, until you realize that people can become incompatible as they evolve through life. You have chosen the truth, you have chosen evolution, you have chosen to perceive and understand the world and life and the spirit from a much higher standard, so to speak, than your partner. So of course that is what you received from life, but that also changed you and transformed you profoundly, where you were no longer compatible. But of course, for other people, it can mean a relocation. It can also mean returning to a place where you fled from, exited from, escaped from, because it wasn't actually serving your greatest good, but because you still had some karmic ties there, you had to return to the nightmare, so to speak, and just live it, finish it, complete it, do whatever it took and fate demanded of you for you to be free of the past forever. But regardless of what this full reverse means, that leap of faith, that moment of courage, when you truly confronted your biggest fears, even though it was like really, really difficult, it was really hard, it might have been the most difficult thing that you have ever faced in your life, because the problems weren't just entering your life from one area. It was like all of your life, everything in it was in total ruin, including psychologically, including spiritually. So basically you lost all the stability that you ever had. And you had to work that emperor, not just to survive, but to find yourself, reinvent yourself, heal the past, envisage the future. So it was like 4 years of continuous metamorphosis, so to speak, continuous change, but a change which felt like painstakingly slow. And even when you entered a regeneration phase, when you healed everything that you could, materially, spiritually, psychologically, relationship, etc. Even the healing and the regeneration part was felt actually very, very slow, very energy demanding, focus demanding, as in you just had to invest every single strength that you had in your soul and in your body into surviving it, because it wasn't anything easy. And perhaps for some of you guys, that is why this Aries season is so very important, because one way or the other, it ended, it was completed, but only on the inside. And now you just know that something has to show up in your life to symbolize and to manifest that yes, you have closed the past, you have shed your old skin, you changed, you transformed your life, you faced your fears, you did everything that was needed for this brand new, totally new life to finally open its doors before you, to unlock, enter the password, and to crack the lock open. But you might be right now in this present moment in a phase where you're slightly losing hope, you are extremely impatient, and you can't fault yourself, because you know that it is kind of rational to feel that way. It is rational to worry, it is rational to have certain fears for the future, because time is of the essence. From every perspective possible, you really, really need all those things which do not depend on you to just pop up in your life in order to step through the door, step through the border into that new life and just start doing whatever it is that you can do, are willing to do, have trained yourself to do, so to speak. So as much as you still have faith, you still have hope, everything that you have been through makes sense, and if life taught you anything, well, it taught you patience the hard way. Yet still, a need is a need. As much as that emperor tells us that you're trying your very hardest to figure it out, to find a way, perhaps a course of action, an option, an opportunity to just create what you need in your life for yourself. So you're working very, very hard, yet still that which is fated doesn't depend on you. So you're in a rather anxious state and you might not be able to control it. You might feel really, really worked up because you just wanna begin. You just wanna embrace this rebirth of yours in a real, practical, even material sense. So if some of you guys need to relocate, if some of you guys need that big job interview or career, or those who have started perhaps a business or went freelance, where you just trusted yourself, you trusted your skill and talent or your passion, well, this is where reality has to support you. Like business or influx of material resources has to just enter your life. While for other people it may be a connection, a friend, an ally, a benefactor who has to show up. For others, maybe it's love, maybe it's the partner they've been sensing and dreaming of, or maybe the universe let you know 4 years ago that this is why you're doing it, to align with that very special someone who is going to be a permanent part of your future. So whatever your distinctive situation translates into as a new beginning, well, that is what you're waiting for, and the Death card is the most positive sign because it speaks about the radical life change that is gonna be showing up in your life soon. And as I said, a certain part of this depends on you, and what depends on you is already set in motion. It is already perfectly under control because you have worked, you are in a state of readiness, you are prepared and ready to make a step, a choice, a decision instantly as anything changes, as anything pops up in your life. And even the hand of fate is slowly but surely moving, mobilizing stuff, but whatever is happening karmically, well, that part is totally invisible for you guys right now. And there is no way you can anticipate it, there is no way you can sense it, because it's gonna be a massive shock and a massive surprise. And this is the reason why you feel so very frightened, anxious, uncertain, worried, stressed out, and there is a lot of psychological pressure on you. Because the universe just doesn't want to show you the future, as in the next step, the next milestone, what is going to happen in your life next. You feel that something's coming, but no matter how much you try to make sense of it, you just cannot see it, and it's almost like the universe is blocking you intentionally, blinding you, so to speak. So the only chance, the only possibility you have right now to stay focused is blind faith, but that might not be you, that might not be how you operate. So like it or not, that is the only thing that you have in your life to grip into in order to give you that psychological stability that you need. Fortunately, the Emperor also represents Aries season, so something is definitely going to happen in your lives or start out at least, or the pieces of the puzzle are finally starting to show up in order to lead you to the big picture. But the final part is gonna be a total surprise, it's gonna be a shock. Maybe you already have it in the sense that you might have done something in the not so distant past, maybe a gesture, a choice, or something you might have done for another person, which will pay off so handsomely that you cannot even dream of it. Or for others, it just comes out of the blue. It all happens in a moment, because ultimately fate mirrors your own attitude. 4 years ago, for some people, or for others, maybe even going back further, you took that leap of faith. You showed to the universe, to the divine forces, that you're taking this and yourself and your story and full responsibility of everything good and bad in your life. You're taking it seriously. You're willing to work with it. You gave yourself over in a second, and that is exactly why the universe is gonna give you whatever you need just as quickly, spontaneously, and randomly as you made that choice, you made that decision, that leap of faith. Yet the reason why things are taking such a long time, well, you have been getting these guidances and these spiritual messages, let's say, from any source possible ever since you were a child, to trust your power, trust yourself, trust your passions, trust your talents, etc. And you needed a lot of this to be convinced that you're truly that powerful, that you're truly meant to live big things, or maybe unusual things, your own story, your own version of life and existence. So that's why the universe takes a lot of time as well to be convinced that you're ready and you are able to work with what is going to come next in your life. But anyway, it is basically fated. Your dices are already rolled. You planted everything that you could possibly plant in the universe, and now some of those seeds have already grown and come to fruition. And what doesn't depend on you is definitely coming. So even if you find it so very hard to have this blind faith, you just need to do whatever you can to work with it in the present moment, because it won't take longer than 4 months, I do believe, until you're finally in and living that story that you've worked for so hard. For those of you who have chosen the second pile, your cards are the Three of Wands, the Knight of Cups, and the Knight of Swords. For you guys, this Three of Wands indicates that it might not really be a new beginning in the classical sense, but rather a very significant and powerful evolution of one of your plans, one of your goals, one of your desires. So it is going to be a new beginning in the sense that you can actually work with it, accomplish it, do it, live it. But the intention, the plan itself is not that new. It might have been planted into the universe already, perhaps 3 months ago, or it has been something that you have been slowly but surely creating over 3 years. As I said, chances are that it's something rather practical, it's something that you really want to accomplish, want to do. And these nights, well, it can represent emotional elements, as in perhaps a new relationship, new circle of friends, you doing a new kind of activity, perhaps a job, professional activity, something which might have to do with career, but it doesn't necessarily have to. It can also be something humanitarian, something out of your own choice, a skill or talent of yours. Maybe you're an artist, or maybe you have always been an artist from an amateur perspective, and it is only now when you're taking it to the next level, that Knight of Cups. But it can also be something very practical, like a planned project, idea, lucrative purpose, a hobby, an activity. That Knight of Swords, something that you planned, something that maybe you set up already, and you just need to enable these, you just need to work with these. So basically the emphasis on put on the time, energy, focus, resources you are able to invest in these things, in these specific areas of life. And chances are that both this emotional element and the mental intellectual element are connected, are united with one another. So even if it's like a big career change for some people, or your business finally picking up momentum and just doing what it should be doing, it is still connected to something emotional. For example, your own emotional well-being, living your dream, doing whatever it is that you love to do, that you're passionate about, that it makes you feel comfortable, supported, powerful, alive, and naturally intellectual. So your plans and ideas and whatever you create in your mind becomes real. It might be something which has to do with communication, media, sharing images, a text, your thoughts, your experience, or working with other people, something that might involve the collective, a community, or it can also be something humanitarian. But, at the same time, for some people, it is basically a relationship that they're looking for. They might have done a lot of inner work, a lot of changes in their routines, in their patterns, in their way of thinking, in order to become much more aligned with themselves so that they can shine their light, they can project who they truly are on the world out there. And that means that a person who resonates with this or is a valid reflection can simply enter their lives and a new relationship is formed. These two knights working together are almost like the Chariot card. So it is one of your desires, it is one of your projects, whatever you want to accomplish next in life. It is something very personal. And since all of these cards are in upright position, well, that means that the beginning of Aries season, and of course the rest of the year, is gonna be a time of fruition, when finally things start to progress, when things come together, when connections are gonna appear in your life. Three of Wands means new opportunities, or the opportunities that you have been waiting for finally showing up in your life. It also means maybe a new study. It maybe means a perfection of your skills. It can also mean recognition or your reputation reaching people and places and communities where this was not a possibility in the past. So both information, energies, and even karmic forces are traveling, are expanding, and you also take on new perspectives, new approaches, new way of doing things. So everything is leading you to an upgrade, to action, to working with whatever you have planned, those seeds of intentions which you have planted into the universe. So this will be the time of action. This will be the time when you accomplish, when you do, when you act, and you move forward in life, regardless if this is a project, if this is career, or you seeking a relationship. Opportunities will open up, and your chance, your time to achieve and follow up all your plans with action is finally here. And the best part of this is that you're definitely not alone. Because if this would depict just the dynamism of your own plans, of your own seeds of intentions, picking up great speed in the close future, maybe the aces would appear, or the pages, or the queens. But out of all possible cards, it is the knights which appeared, which also means the intervention of other people. So regardless of what you're seeking, what you're trying to accomplish, you will get a lot of help from others. If it's a business or a project or a very down to earth material plan of yours, then you can simply get connected to all the right people, those who can maybe spread the word, maybe those who have friends in high places, or maybe it can represent clients, customers needing your services, needing your expertise. And if it's perhaps a relationship, love, or emotional values that you're seeking, it can mean the person who is going to open the doors for you, who has all the friends, who has all the connections, who has access to this new community, let's say, new circle of friends, or maybe one of their friends, one of their acquaintances is the person that you seek. And naturally, it can also mean that this person is who you seek and they'll just pop up in your life and make you an offer. So anyway, allies, friends, help in the shape and form of other people is definitely coming into your life. And these new opportunities, these new perspectives depicted by the Three of Wands will appear in the shape of people or maybe one specific person. And also it is mutual because you will have the same role in the life of that person as they have in your life. So what you seek is also seeking you, and it is just gonna be a moment when all of this is gonna cross roads, cross paths, and you get connected. And of course, for some people, this Three of Wands can also mean relocation, can also mean travels, maybe that person traveling to where you are, or you traveling to where this person is, or maybe this moment when you get connected has to do with a travel of yours, even if it has nothing to do with your goals and purposes. Maybe you're just visiting a family, maybe you're visiting a friend, maybe you're going to an event which has absolutely nothing to do with, your karmic path or desires. And this is how it all comes together. And there is also guidance along with these cards, because the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Swords ultimately represent part of the self as well. So this is where, as long as you keep your emotions, the matters of the heart, the passion inside of you, all your feelings in harmony with your thoughts, as long as you embody, for example, the energy of Libra, where the heart and the mind are in balance with each other, and simply living in that state creates a lot of momentum, creates a lot of flow in life. Because if something is so logical to both the mind and the heart, well, then it's almost like you're inviting the universe to always permanently conspire in your favor with everything. So trust your feelings, trust your emotions, trust your heart, but at the same time, enforce those feelings, enforce the love, the passion, by thinking constructive, self-supportive thoughts. And of course, the way you communicate, the way you speak about yourself, the way you present yourself to others or out there in the world, maybe through social media or through your work or whatever, it is very, very important, because you have to let it shine through just how seriously you take your goals and purposes, and that you have everything you need inside of you in order to accomplish. And as soon as you allow that confidence, but not overconfidence, or not someone who is almost obsessed by getting what they want. So basically this is more like a lightheartedness, a confidence where you just know that you're doing exactly what you have to do, that you are totally ready, that you are competent and able. So basically it's trust given to the self. So if you let this shine through your communications, then you make yourself extremely magnetic to draw in the attention of all the right people, and you might have surprising communication entering your life. and also have courage and faith, because if these knights are you and they represent yourself, then they are tied to the Three of Wands, the opportunities, the perspective, the connection, where you are enabled to live your opportunities, not just see them and wait for them to enter your life. Sometimes you have to make this first step. So if an option, an opportunity arises in your life, which even though might appear to be a little bit too big for you to handle, too complicated for you to work with, or perhaps you don't have all the security in your life in order for you to work with something that big, don't be afraid, don't be discouraged, and don't be shy. Just give it a shot, try it. Don't shut these opportunities out from your life because they scare you, they frighten you. At least go and have an interview or have a discussion, inquire, have a talk, communicate. Get all the details that you would like, that you need rationally and logically as well, not just emotionally. And you never know what might arise from that communication, from your inquiry, from just asking a simple question or stating your intention to work with those opportunities and options. So don't be shy, don't be discouraged. Give yourself the chance to at least try. And also, don't be discouraged that you might miss out an opportunity or this is the only chance you get. Because when there is one opportunity, there are more in life. And this is definitely not one of those situations where you only get one shot at doing something. So don't have that fear of good choice, wrong choice, right path or wrong path. This is where, these knights are on horses and they have wings. That means that it's so very adaptable, it's not rigid, it's not fixed. It can be co-created in a million different ways. So if it is just a question of preference and timing, what is more comfortable, more efficient for you? So just analyze everything without having fears of missing out and just trust yourself. And I'm sure that things are definitely going to come together very, very soon. For those of you who have chosen the third pile, your cards are the Chariot, the Four of Pentacles, and the Judgment. Now this is a very surprising combination of cards because it doesn't necessarily give us a look into the future, but everything is more like a guidance or an advice or a message directly for you. There is a part of the situation which the universe doesn't reveal because you already know it, you're doing it, you're living it, you're experiencing it as we speak. So you need no additional information with whatever you're doing right now. But what you truly need is to know that you are going through the very last, symbolically speaking, of course, karmic exam, the very last karmic test or lesson that you have to basically emerge victorious or triumphant from in order for you to receive everything. Now, I know that to receive everything is very subjective, but this is where maybe you might be the only one who might understand what this means. And if I would go into more details, as in to dig, maybe I would distort the message or I would just confuse myself. So I'm keeping this reading, this pile 3, as raw, as uninterpreted as possible, because the guidance that I am receiving, the messages that I'm picking up on, is that you guys will understand exactly what I'm talking about. So it is only you guys who can truly decipher the message here, what the universe really wants you to understand and focus on. So the reading is opened by the Chariot, which means that you are already on track, you're already living it, you're already doing it. It is something fated and karmic, and it has to do with your life goal, your purpose in life, something that is very, very important to every part of your being. This is both soul, both ego, both identity, both shadow, both higher self, lower self, every possible self. So basically, you might be living right now the most karmically concentrated period of your entire lives. This is where you have been set out on a journey to achieve a massive breakthrough, to achieve something infinitely important to your soul, to your life, to the being who you are. And it's something so important that it even comes from previous existences, in the sense that this is the timeline, this is the life where you do it, where you complete it, where you achieve it, or are part of something that is very important for you personally. This also depicts a massive work in progress that you have begun to take very seriously, maybe starting from the year 2014, but it was a big work in progress. It only kind of started becoming a real, in the sense that it wasn't just something that you were dreaming about or sensing, feeling, or picking it up from dreams or any kind of guidance. It was actually happening, it was starting, it was getting real, in the sense that you were actually starting to live it. And I'm not sure what this very important moment in 2017 maybe it is something to do with your own psychological awakening, where you started to become who you were always destined to be. You started to work with your true talents, your true gifts, whatever it is that made you special and unique, or you basically started to truly work on your goal in life, where nothing else was more important than this. Not money, not career, not other people, not any other traditional aspects of life, but you started to truly focus on what was most important to your soul, whatever you felt all your life that you had to do. And it can be something spiritual for some people, like the awakening, or maybe they started focusing on their spiritual gifts and talents, and starting that area of life, that part of that phase of life, that state of being. For some people, this chariot means escaping your karma, but specifically your family's karma, the family that you have been born into this life, in a very radical way, where you just take yourself away from that story, from the past, from everything that rooted you into this existence, where this is where you just rip out the roots as they are and just close that chapter forever. And for some people, it doesn't necessarily mean separating from your family, but maybe saving all of you guys, all of your family, from a vicious or really almost enslaving karmic pattern, something that might have ran in your family all throughout your life. Some people, it might be, for example, material problems, representing the massive karmic cross on their families all their lives, where you just could never enter into true prosperity and abundance ever, because something always happened. For other people, it might be relationship partnerships, where it's always the same pattern of a toxic partner, destabilizing life, or not being able to find a truly kind and loving partner relationship. And for other people still, this is something like living a totally new and different life in a very radical way. For example, like going nomad and returning to nature or a natural way of living, or leaving everything behind and just starting a very specific way of life and just making that your reality. Or for others, maybe acquiring money, material resources, or some kind of material stability which might give you the chance to live your life the way you want it without ever having to respect routines like a traditional job, traditional work, traditional way of having an income, livelihood in your life. Because, of course, you want to dedicate yourself to something very, very important for you. But as I said, you're on this journey, you're in the middle of it, you're extremely focused, you know what you want, you have a pretty good foresight of how things are gonna come together. You might not know the details, the specifics, but you know the big picture. You know the kind of life or destiny that's waiting for you. You kind of feel and know and have dreamt about basically living that life. And of course the journey was not easy, but you kind of knew from the very second that it's gonna be extremely difficult, extremely hard, extremely soliciting of every single strength and virtue that you could possibly possess. And naturally, the beginning of Aries season after the solstice is gonna be a very important milestone, a very important phase of your journey, when that chariot can quantum leap into that phase where this journey of yours becomes much more stable, much more grounded, safer. It gives you a sense of security, it gives you time, it gives you freedom, and it gives you the chance to rest. Rest is really, really important, because even if it's just inner work, even if it's any kind of effort or sacrifice you put into your journey until this moment, well, it was constant, continuous, and it just drained you. So, like it or not, the next step is a period of recuperation, regeneration, feeding your soul, your emotional world, investing into yourself, investing into your well-being, into your comfort as well, that Four of Coins, because you can only operate proficiently, efficiently, from a state of empowerment if you have comfort in your life, whatever comfort means for you personally. But chances are for most people it's gonna be material comfort, because the Four of Coins is earthly power. It is financial power, or at least security or a shield. Even if it's not, let's say, you personally, it can be a sponsor, a paternal figure, or someone protecting you materially and financially, a benefactor, a supporter. But regardless if you know that you have to rest a little bit, or you're still fully focused on your journey, on your path, you know that you're getting tired, you know that the clock is ticking, in the sense that if you don't stabilize yourself, if you don't achieve that sense of permanence, that sense of groundedness, where both mind, as in the rational part of our beings, and the heart, as in the emotional world, can truly stay focused on what is important for you, on your path, and living it, doing it, executing it, so to speak, achieving a state of singularity where you can invest all your psychological and spiritual, intellectual, even emotional focus into living your life story, living wherever that chariot is taking you, Because basically the chariot is not today, tomorrow, the past 7 years. It is all your life. It is everything that you have to do. So the most important part of the chariot is leaving behind the obstacles, leaving behind having to multitask in life, basically being able to stay disconnected from the collective, from society, from whatever is happening in the world, because what is happening inside of you is much more important regarding your life story, your mission, whatever it is that you need to do. So this is why you need this material security, or whatever that sense of security and groundedness means for you personally. Maybe for some it's not even money or stability in a financial perspective, but maybe it's a teacher, someone with the practical know-how, a missing link, a missing person who has to fit into your puzzle. But anyway, that is what you are kind of waiting for, what you're working towards. Because if that source of stability, whatever has to give you that comfort, the chance to be powerful and just to live your story, if that doesn't appear in your life that very soon, you will have to make compromises. You will have to basically stop your chariot and focus on other things in life, and that will be a setback. And you really don't want it right now, and you just don't want to deal with anything like that right now. So you just need support, you need help, maybe you need a miracle. And this is why the universe is telling you through that judgment card, if there was ever a moment to trust, if there was ever a moment to invest every single possible power of your belief and faith into yourself, as in that is imperative. If you don't believe in yourself and in that chariot, in your journey, in your destiny, if you don't believe in it with every fiber of your being, the big breakthrough that you are needing and waiting for cannot happen in your life, because that Four of Coins represents that it's big. It is almost miraculous. It is almost incomprehensible to the person who you used to be, perhaps when you were a child, or if your journey is to rip your roots out from the family's karma, then it is something which never happened to you guys as a family ever in life. So regardless of what it is, it's big. But because you kind of rationally know it's big, it fills you with certain doubts, with, your mind may play tricks, because how is it rational? How is it possible? And it is rational, and it is actually possible, but only for a person who is truly supported by the universe in a very unconditional way. So that is exactly what you need to believe, that the universe is more than ready to give it to you unconditionally, as in you already done all that was needed, for the simple fact that you were born in this life, being who you are, having the courage to be on this journey and on this path is more than enough for you to have it. So if you're fearing that your chariot is slowing down, that it's almost stopping, that the two horses are going to go in two different directions, as in compromises, having to deal with other parts of life, complications, maybe legal issues, contracts, debt, banks, etc. Well, the solution is believe with every fiber of your being, even if it might seem to you as obsession, even if it may seem to you as manipulating yourself, there is no other way, because the opportunity is there. It's not something fixed, as in, it's only a divine seed which can grow into anything possible or even impossible. But you need to kind of activate it by focusing on yourself. And this might be very difficult because you might have self-esteem issues. You might have a very wounded sense of identity, perhaps because your family, because you were programmed to be a victim or to live with certain disadvantages. But right now, it's so very important to focus on the opposite of this. This belief, simply as much as you can, all of those, bad thought patterns, low self-worth, it doesn't matter what other people think, it doesn't matter how your life was until this moment. Nothing really matters, because with the divine inside of you, you can live what you believe that you need to have in your life. What you believe that you're worthy of is what you can get. And it's very, very important for you personally, because this is the moment of that judgment. This Aries season is when the self, your instincts, the primordial part of your being, the animal inside of you, let's use this expression, is gonna be activated much more than ever before in your life. So you need to invest every single source of belief into who it is that you are. As in the hero of your journey, the hero of your life story, the person who not just sets out on the journey but also is triumphant. And everything in the universe supports that. And the only thing that you're missing is that belief. You need to invest everything that you have into believing this right now, because otherwise it cannot manifest, it cannot come together in the most perfect way possible. Of course, help will come, that's not an issue here. But in order for it to be as big and as truly big and problem solving for real, or let's just use the word miraculous, even though it's not a miracle because it's not impossible. And that is exactly the problem here, because only you think it's impossible, but really it's not, because you are destined for something like that. You're destined to live that dream, that life, that path that you are on. And that is exactly why you had so many problems and troubles and obstacles in the past, to motivate you, almost obsess you, to give you the power which you lack. Because you're a very modest person, humble, and it's absolutely fine, because you need to be like that. It is who you are. But when it comes to faith, when it comes to you and the universe, just this personal relationship, you may not be humble there, because the universe is more alive in your destiny journey through life, in your everyday moment, than for most people out there on the planet. So why be modest with how much help you can get from the universe? Basically, this is the core message for you to believe within yourself with all your strength, to maximum capacity, more than you have ever done in all your life, because that is the only thing you're missing. And a part of this seems incredible to you, unbelievable to you, because you try your very best to believe in yourself. But maybe the mistake that you're making, and you don't even know it, is when it's just you and the universe and nothing and no one else. You cannot really be humble, because the universe is also you, alive in you. So you need to allow it to become alive, to flow as intensely as it wants to and needs to. So do not apply principles or anything ideological or rational or logical even when it comes to your connection with the divine, because that is so special that it's not susceptible to any principle. It is almost like the parent and the child. Is there any principle that can limit love? No. So this is why you need to allow the full love of the universe to enter your life. So stop blocking it, even though you don't know that you're blocking it, but you do. because you need to give yourself full belief, full credibility, so to speak, right now. This is not where the universe is an external puppet master. This is where the universe is alive, literally in you, through you. Your whole being is the universe. So, this is true self-love. The universe is a living, breathing being just like us. So it has to support itself. It has to take care of itself, its needs, enact its plans, whatever. So do the same, mirror the attitude the universe has towards itself. The only way it can basically hold all of realities together is if it believes it, it dreams it, it's immersed, it's there. So do the same without limiting yourself. So simply said, you are definitely going to be facing divine judgment, divine trial, but you are the judge really, no one else, nothing external. So what you sentence yourself to is what you're gonna be living. So be very careful this Aries season to believe with all your heart in your happiness, in your worth, in your uniqueness, because that will be the key to your future. For those of you who have chosen the fourth pile, your cards are the Nine of Cups, the Tower reversed, and the Star. This is a truly beautiful and inspirational message here, because these cards suggest that these new beginnings, or the energies of the new, so to speak, are not necessarily gonna be linked to a specific situation. They're not really tied to a goal, like a practical new beginning in something. Neither is it anything karmic that has to enter your life, as in a specific event or something predetermined, but rather it is going to be like an emotional state which is going to last for a lot of years, where life will feel absolutely different and in the most positive sense possible. It will feel like you have stepped into a new dimension, of course symbolically speaking, where things just feel very, very different. And of course, certain problems, may they be inner problems, like for example maybe a trauma, maybe something which has to do with bad memories, a failed relationship, or simply your own self-sabotaging mental tendencies. It can also be external factors like challenges coming from your relationships, not having, for example, friends who are a truly valuable addition to your life. They may be just people who you accept because you don't want to be alone. It can also very well be material things, or the material part of your life following totally different and new patterns than you are used to. So in other words, this kind of means entering a new personal paradigm, which might have absolutely nothing to do with any external event, the world, the times we live in, or humanity's collective karma. It is just a totally different phase in life for you, where things are just different. And of course, this isn't like a major blessing, or it isn't really like a miracle, but it's more like having your cake and eating it, because you have worked a lot, both karmically or in any single sense, in order to have this in your life. Because this is the Nine of Cups. This ability to experience everything in a different way is fueled by your soul. It is fueled by your unconscious mind, which has been purged from so very many things limiting it, so from so very many pollutants, so to speak. So basically, it's almost like having clean, fresh running water inside of the cup of your soul. And when the inner forces are crystal clear, when they can just allow the light to shine through them, well, naturally that means that you're gonna have a kind of life which supports you and reflects that innocence, that purity that you have achieved through a lot of inner work. And of course, it was also past karma. It may speak about the year 2018 and 2019, where a lot of unfavorable things might have happened to you. You had tower moments in your life, one after another. For example, maybe people betrayed you, maybe you lost your job, maybe things played out in a very unfavorable way where you might have sensed that you're in a permanent state of bad luck, misfortune. Nothing seemed to come together. Everything was so hard, full of obstacles. And as I said, there were also like fated moments in the most unfavorable sense, of course, where you just had to lose either certain things or certain people, or maybe it was your health which really, really destabilized, and it caused a lot of fright, a lot of moments of panic, worry, and like maximum fear in your life, because you almost thought that you were in very, very, very big trouble. But ultimately, you might have realized that all of that happened for a reason. And the biggest reason is that the Nine of Cups tells us that happiness is a choice. Personal well-being can only, exist in one's life if that is one of your big desires. It isn't something that is gifted to us. And even if the conditions are gifted to us, if we don't live it, if we don't appreciate it, if we don't choose to experience it unconditionally without attachments, as in life cannot permanently be happy and good and joy. It is always a combination of good and bad, and it really, really depends on what we focus on what we put the emphasis on. And maybe this wisdom changed your life because you found yourself several times in such difficult situations where everything in life was about the problem, and it made it so big, so acute, so bad that you just burned out your ability to worry. There was only that much energy that you could invest into worrying. So of course that was a moment when you reached the bottom, when everything was in free fall, when even the power to worry is stripped away from you. Well, it is almost like a living death. Symbolically speaking, of course, but the recovery was conditioned by this inner epiphany of yours that happiness is something that we have to strive for, that we have to desire and ultimately create for ourselves, and it is not selfish. Staying detached from negativity, from other people's problems, from other people's psychological or even karmic excrement, so to speak. It is not selfish, but rather healthy, because if you're happy with yourself and if you have your life under control, in the sense that it doesn't depend on the happiness of others, it just depends on what you feel and what you want to feel, well, that makes you that much more powerful to influence others in a positive way. And allowing yourself to be dragged into negativity, suffering, drama, because there is nothing you can do to help those people, that is not a solution. And that was the big lesson, what you had to stop doing and start doing the opposite, where you just focus on what is important for yourself. And you kind of surprised yourself because you never thought that trying to be happy, trying to appreciate the good things in your life is not as hard as you thought it was. You never actually knew that you had it in you, and that was actually much more your archetype. That was much your true self, Because you might have always lived in depression, that your true self is a worrier, it is a negative kind of person who focuses on the problem, who tries to look at life realistically, until you figured out that even reality is a big illusion. It really depends on how you kind of see it. So you purge these patterns out from yourself, patterns which you might have inherited in the best with the best intent possible. Maybe someone relevant in your life tried to teach you to be responsible, to foresee things, how to manage your life, your time, your priorities. But that had a negative impact on you, even though the intention was really, really good and loving. Yet still, it was never who you were. You were an innate optimist, but one which you never were allowed to discover within you. So basically, it was like returning to who it is that you truly were. And not only did this personal power of happiness, of being able to be happy, heal the tower moments of your past, but also this is where this new beginning of yours is gonna be stepping into a phase of life where everything is about the star, as in your lucky star guiding your life finally. Everything that you do, everywhere that you go, everything that you invest your focus into is gonna actually show you the most beneficial and positive side of life. This is where maybe you're gonna meet people who are truly nice and have an example to give, or who embody a big value that you truly respect. This is where maybe just going out on the street will attract people who will smile at you and who will have something positive and beautiful to say, rather than victims and toxic people and narcissists. This is when everything that you will start to do or initiate, may it be work, business, or friendship or anything, will have a truly positive outcome. This is simply said the star moment of your life, when things take a positive turn, when good things come knocking at your door on their own. And ultimately you can see beauty, you can see the bright side, you can see the happiness in everything, and of course the beauty of creation. Everything is to be appreciated, and you no longer fear the negativity, you no longer fear the downsides of life. And because there is no fear, whenever problems happen, whenever bad things take place, because of your attitude, they're going to take a totally different expression, no longer being amplified and focused on, but simply quickly learning the lesson and then moving on. And this is gonna feel like living in a totally different universe, when it is your lucky star which guides you and shines light on your path, and not the opposite. And this ultimately means that if you want to initiate something new, if you want any kind of new beginning in your life, well, that is gonna be a moment when good fortune, fate, reality itself will start to support you, and you will not need to do anything special other than what any other person might have to do to begin anew or to initiate everything. And success, or at least a really positive outcome, will follow. And this is also where this is for your long-term future. This is not just, let's say, 3 months or a period of a year or 2 years, after which the good vibes, the good energy, the good fortune ends. This is for the rest of your life, or at least for the really long-term future, where you can finally live life and everything in your life as happily and as emotionally nurturing way as possible. Because when your lucky star is just shining brightly on your sky, everything that you might do, from the simplest gestures like having a walk in the park to the most complicated things like something professional or career related, it will still have a deeper meaning always, and that will make you feel so very much alive and part of everything of the whole. For those of you who have chosen the fifth pile, your cards are the Ten of Wands reversed, the Ace of Cups reversed, and the Hangman reversed. Now this is a pretty complicated combination of cards because, the symbolism is so very obvious. It means some kind of really powerful and intense rebirth. So the psychological factor and the emotional factor is much more important than anything else. And it might have something to do with some kind of awakening. Maybe it's a spiritual awakening. Maybe it is your mental sphere becoming better, stronger. Maybe it is an information that you are gonna receive. But anyway, this is a really powerful and massive psychological transformation, almost like a rebirth, which is gonna represent a final piece of the puzzle, something that will give perfect sense and clarity to your past and why things happened the way they happened. Because even though you kind of deciphered your karma, why and where things are leading you, what it is that you have to do in this life, even your previous existences, so you have a lot of things figured out, but there is still a part which is not very clear. There is a part which might have been an eternal enigma all your life. Maybe it can have to do with certain questions about yourself, about certain maybe visions, feelings, dreams that you might have had, which were very strong and powerful, and they kind of fascinated you all your life. Or maybe it's another kind of answer to a much more, let's say, philosophical question of yours, which might complete your spiritual knowledge or understanding. Or it might be something totally different, like a practical information that you need for something regarding your spiritual self or past existences or where you come from. I'm not really sure, but I know that it's very important for you to finally piece together the puzzle to obtain a much clearer understanding of who you are and what your true, and I mean like true hidden potential is, which was clearly hidden from you on purpose. But before we get to this, that Ten of Wands reversed is very significant because it means that a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, a lot of karmic obligations, so to speak, have been an ongoing part of your life. Maybe it has something to do with your family, as in maybe a parent or a family member who needed continuous help, support, or any kind of sacrifice from your behalf. And this was karmic. It was just something you had to do. There was no other option to not give that person the help or not support the person. But it was really, really hard and it drained you so much. For other people, it can be maybe your work or career. Maybe you were a healer. Maybe you were a psychotherapist. Maybe you were someone, even like physical education or trainer or anyone who worked with other people. It can be absolutely any job as long as you work with other people, which drained you, you had like oceans of responsibility on your shoulder in every sense. For others still, maybe it's a best friend or a soulmate maybe it's a life partner who you had to support or sacrifice for, which drained you. Or maybe for some people that special person betrayed you, and that might have left a really powerful emotional scar which just wounded you in a very, very intense manner. And the hangman once was in upright position. Maybe you weren't even aware of how very strongly your wound was, or that maybe that wound just bled out your whole consciousness. You just lost certain parts of yourself because of that event, that wound, whatever this person might have done to you. And for those who had like responsibility towards their family or someone who they love deeply, well, it was that person's suffering which wounded you and reminded you of your own wounds and weaknesses and vulnerabilities. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean backstabbing or betrayal. It just means that the Ace of Cups, the symbol of one's emotional power, of someone's unconditional love, as in the spiritual power that fuels all of us, basically, that is where, you lost a lot of strength. And the dark night of the soul might have begun immediately, and it took you a lot of time to rediscover everything about you, your spirituality, who you are, what you want to do in life, what your life story is. There were a lot of old principles that were crumbling, which were no longer a valid part of your life, even though it was the same principles that allowed you to achieve a lot of success in the past, because basically your life story was built on a lot of personal power that you had, but the way you used that personal power changed all of a sudden. And that is how you were upgraded by a massive wound, by a massive pain, which kind of forced you to bleed out everything that no longer resonated with you, as in especially maybe the person who you conditioned yourself to be in the past. Everything in life needs compromises, and maybe that was the compromise you accepted and you took, that you did things the traditional way, the classic way, according to certain principles, even if those principles are ancient wisdom, or even if those principles were the result of spirituality's most relevant figures and the work that they have done and the wisdom they have achieved. It still isn't who you are anymore. So all of that had to bleed out. It had to just leave your being for you to rediscover who it is that you are, much more aligned to the present, to the future, basically. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, it is because this Ace of Cups reversed is entering your life, in the sense that, Aries season also involves the sun meeting Chiron, our wounds, the wounded healer, and that will basically trigger you and just reveal to you that you still have an emotional void inside your heart. A void that someone needs to fill up, or perhaps something needs to fill up. So that might be a moment when you're truly emotionally vulnerable, but when that happens, when this emotional vulnerability just takes you over, well then know that that is exactly what you need, because ultimately a void has a huge gravitational pull, especially spiritually. So it will pull either this specific person or that specific energy, what you need in your life to refill that Ace of Cups, to fill it with clean, fresh, divine water of life, allowing you to just start living emotionally once more, to immerse in life, to love life, to love the adventure, to love the mystery. So that person or that energy, however it has to play out in your life, will just enter. And as your soul will start to just receive food, receive nourishment, receive power, start to be active in a perhaps non-spiritual sense, as in you just will wanna live life, you will just wanna do so very many things that you have put aside because you couldn't focus and concentrate on them, emotional matters for example. Or even if it's spiritual, like maybe that person or whatever that energy is meant to represent in your life, maybe it's gonna inspire you to truly immerse into this side of yours, into this area of life, which will trigger a really powerful manifestation, an awakening, a breakthrough that will basically reveal to you the meaning of life, the meaning of this existence, where everything is taking you there and then. So a big question that you had in your life, in your spiritual journey, maybe linked to past and past lives, is gonna be answered, or you are gonna be able to answer it for yourself through this person or energy, however it manifests. It can be your next best friend, or the person who is going to be your ally, spiritual teacher or guide for the rest of your life. It can also be a lover, because a lover is also competent to fill you emotionally and to inspire you in ways which are even unimaginable. But it can also be, for example, a community, a group of people, an event that you are witness to, or something that maybe a moment of synchronicity or a very powerful energy that will just impact your life, and it will trigger your true awakening, after which everything in life is definitely gonna be different. This is where what you thought was kind of fantasy, or maybe not materially possible or not able to exist in reality, well, it is that exactly what you're gonna be living and experiencing and seeing or working with it. So that will change everything for you. And as I say, everything will make sense. What you need to do will be crystal clear. And everything has actually led you to this. So it is really something which is beyond my imagination. Perhaps you can give sense to this, or understand it, or interpret it in a way that makes much greater sense to you personally, because especially from a spiritual perspective, you know your own specific details. But it will be a massive moment of breakthrough when something impossible becomes possible. And this is the way I can interpret it, so that maybe it can make sense to more than just one person. Well, this concludes today's reading. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all your kindness, all your lovely comments, all your likes and shares. If you enjoy my work and find it useful, you can express your support by donating. To support my channel, you can find a link to my PayPal on the description below. Thank you again for everyone's trust. Until next time, bye for now.